بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. So continuing from the last lesson, we see here that we were going through أنه. So the text is اعلم رحمك الله أنه يجب علينا تعلم أربع مسائل. So what this means, what we have learned so far is, no, may Allah show you mercy, that, and then it continues. So the next word here is يجب. يجب, which means it is mandatory. And يجب is actually from the word وجوب, which is the masdar, and it is also, it is the infinitive. وجوب, وجوب, which means something. How can I translate this? Well, you can almost call it obligatoriness, or to be obligatory, because it's an infinitive, right? Wujub. So it's a verb, and we have a masdar here, and the fundamental letters is waw, jim, ba. So it's actually on the same pattern as sujood. Sujood, meaning to prostrate. So it's the same pattern, meaning that it's the first letter here with the dhamma, second with the dhamma, then comes a waw, and then the third letter with dhammatan, right? So it's quite common that masadir, the infinitives, come on this pattern. Wujub, sujud, and hulul, and so the conjugations of this verb would be, if we take them in the correct order, if we take it in the, I'll just change my color here, past, present, and imperative. So past, as we said before, you take the first letter with a fatha, second letter depends, and the third letter has a fatha as well. Right, in this case we have a fatha, so it's like sajada, so it is wajaba. The present tense, because we have a waw here, which is, in one sense it's a vowel, It's not always a vowel, though. It is sometimes it's pronounced as a vowel, like oo. Sometimes, I mean, if we have a dhamma before, like this, and then sukoon, or rather no haraka at all, which is a sukoon, by the way, then it's a oo, double O. But if we have, for example, huwa, it is pronounced like a W. So it's not a vowel in this case. It is, in fact, only a vowel if it's preceded by dhamma and the waw itself doesn't have a haraka, as in it has a sukoon. So a sukoon, by the way, is the absence of a haraka. So you can't say that, a letter doesn't have a haraka, yet it doesn't have a sukoon. No, by definition, then it has sukoon. Because the harakat here in the fatha, dhamma, kasra, they are the harakat. And the harakat, haraka means motion, right? A motion. And sukoon means calm. So you actually say, for example, if I write all the harakat, you don't actually, strictly speaking, you don't actually include the sukoon if you say that you're writing out all the harakat. So you say that you are writing the harakat and the sakanat, meaning all the sukoons. بالحركات والسكنات. حركات و سكنات. Okay, that's just an aside. Thing is, the waw, I mean, in either case, if it's pronounced as a vowel or as a consonant, it is a weak letter. The weak letters is waw and ya, I believe, and also alif, obviously. But in any case, waw is a weak letter. So that means it doesn't always have the power to remain in place. So in this case, in the present tense, if you let's take just a minute. Yeah, exactly. Like in ضرب يضرب. So let me spell that out. He hit, right? ضرب يضرب. So the pattern is the same as ضرب يضرب. Okay, so we write a ya, if I write it with the 1, 2, 3, as I did here. Ya first, and then a fatha, and the first letter, the first fundamental letter, which gets a sukoon, and then the second one, which gets a kasra, and the third one, which gets a dhamma. So the thing is, when you write this, it becomes kind of difficult to pronounce, you will see. it would be يوجب. يوجب. Quite difficult to pronounce. So what the Arabs did was to stop pronouncing and subsequently stop writing the waw in this case. So it was connected like this. This is a kasra, by the way, of the two. So I can just let me just move that out of the way here. So now it says yajibu, which means it is mandatory. This is like it, these tenses, when it comes to a verb like this, they kind of go into each other. Wajaba, it was mandatory. That doesn't imply that it's not mandatory now, though. But it was mandatory previously or in the past. Does not mean that that's changed. It does not necessitate that. But yajibu it is mandatory right now, or it's becoming mandatory right now. Okay, so yajibu means that it is mandatory. So let's just write that here. It's mandatory. Okay. So yajibu means it is mandatory from wujub. And that is by the way, if you remember that if you take darb, for example, to hit, and you write it on this pattern, this is an aleph right here, then it becomes the one who performs the actual act. So in this case it will be darib, means a hitter, someone who hits. Okay, so in this case with wujub, it would be something that is obligatory or mandatory. You would write Waajib. Right? Waajib. So that's a related word to wujub and yajib. So if you want to say that something is wajib, you can also say in Arabic yajib. It is mandatory. And wajib, that it is something mandatory. I mean, it's basically the same meaning. And also wajaba, it is also basically the same meaning with a little, very small nuance. Okay. أنه يجب. And what is mandatory? Actually, we will get to that here. But first, we get another word. So, علينا. 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 So this is actually two words. It's a compound word. Let's put it up like this. And it is actually the two words ala and actually it's نحن, meaning we. We. And على means upon. So على is one of those particles that takes whatever is connected to it right after, and it should take a kasra. Its last, I mean the haraka of it, the last letter is changed to kasra. For example, على على الطاولة, على الطاولة, on the table. So الطاولة, sorry, I'm writing very sloppily. الطاولة becomes الطاولة because of this particle. Okay. And we is a pronoun, so pronouns are actually what do we call them? They're like inflexible, or I think, or they are at least indifferent to harakat changes. So they don't change harakat in that sense, but rather they change form when they're supposed to be changing harakat. So نحن becomes na when it's supposed to take a kasra. So the kasra is not really here, but it would be here. Okay. And this letter, by the way, is a alif maqsoora. It means a maqsoor. Allahu a'lam the meaning actually, but it is anyway written as an alif on a ya. So this is an alif. Let me just write this a little bit more clear. Here we go. So it is a ya without the dots and with an alif. So I believe the ya here, I mean it is an alif, but the ya here in writing is to remind us that this alif may transform into a ya. Okay, so, and this is actually exactly what happens, because you see here that the alif has in fact become a ya. علينا. And this means upon us. Upon us. Right? It is mandatory upon us. And what is mandatory? That was the question I asked before. So I told you before that the one performing the verb, like for example, ضرب, or let's not take ضرب because it's too much of the same, it's too monotone. حج, الرجل. This means that the man performed pilgrimage, okay? And the person, or rather the word in a sentence that performs a verb takes on a dhamma. And here we can see actually that this verb is succeeded by a word with dhamma, which means that what is actually mandatory? Well, it's this word. So what is mandatory? Ta'allum. Ta'allum means to learn. تعلم أربع مسائل. And أربع مسائل actually has some intricacies here. Explain them briefly. First of all, أربعة means 4. مسائل means issues or questions. Questions like topics. Sometimes you use the word question like that. It is a question of. So it's not very far off to say this. Masail, questions. Okay. There are several things at play here. Okay. First of all, masail is a bit of a it's a bit of a special word. It's because all words that are spelt like this, so the singular is mas'ala. Mas'ala, meaning issue. It means issue. The plural is not mas'alat, but masail. Masail. And I can just say that this word is a part of a class, a category even, of words that they are not conjugated, or they do not follow the normal rules of grammar. For example, I will tell, the first rule is that they are supposed to have dhammatan, but it does not accept more than one haraka. Okay, that's the first rule. The second rule is that if this word is to take on a kasra at the end of the word here, it will become a fatha. So that's one thing. So if you say, like, for example, fi, in, ma, you don't say, I mean, fi, you may remember that if you have this particle, the next word that is connected to it should have kasra. Not so with this word class. It takes on fatha, okay? And actually this word class is called, or this category of words is called, this is a bad translation, but I hope you will get it. It's inconjugatable. And inconjugatable, meaning you cannot like bend them. And in Arabic, this is called can say الممنوع من الصرف. الممنوع من الصرف. But this is just an aside. It's just to show that this word in this sentence should actually have had a kasra due to the role and the context of the word. أربعة. Why is أربعة mentioned like this? Well, this is one way of expressing the counting of words. So you actually take the number here and what is numbered here, and you make this one into a mudaf and this one into a mudaf ilayh. I don't know if that makes sense, but mudaf ilayh. So this means that mudaf, of course, you know, you might remember that the mudaf does not take two harakas, and the mudaf ilayh, the mudaf also does not take on alif lam, and the mudaf ilayh takes on kasra. I'll make that green actually. So that's why we got a fatha here, because one, it is mamnu' min as-sarf, and two, it is mudaf ilayh. So when you say arba' masail, you mean you are actually saying 4 matters. 4 matters. And or matters or issues, right? So know, may Allah show you mercy, that it is mandatory upon us to learn 4 issues. Not we have almost completed the analysis, grammatical and linguistic analysis of this sentence, but there's one thing left. Here, in the example of counting, we have the default haraka, which is dhamma, right? Arba'u masaila. But here, we got a what? A kasra. Why? Well, ta'allum. Ta'allum also doesn't have two harakas. Ta'allumu arba'i masaila. So, actually, this one, ta'allum, is mudaf, which means it doesn't have alif lam, and it doesn't have 2 harakas. Okay, it has dhamma because it is the actor of the wujub. So it is what is mandatory in this sentence. We have what is mandatory is learning. The learning of, and this is why we got a mudaf ilayh, learning of arba'i masail, 4 issues. So to learn is actually, it's accurate, but it's not, it doesn't actually, it's better to have the learning or learning here, because it's also a correct translation of the infinitive. And then because we have mudaf ilayh, that's why arba'a has kasra, and it does not have kasratain. It does not have arba'un or arba'in because it's mudaf, and that's why. That is because it is a count of something, as I explained earlier. So here, because it's ta'allum al-arba'a is in a mudaf ilayh relationship, we have the of implication here. So now I believe we are done. No, may Allah show you mercy that, and this is ضمير الشأن, as you may remember, أنه يجب, it is mandatory upon us learning of 4 issues. So it is mandatory. Actually, it is means what is mandatory. Okay. So in reality, I believe this is also superfluous to mention in the translation. So actually, what is it that is mandatory? Here, it is the learning. So one translation of this sentence could be, no, may Allah show you mercy that learning of 4 issues is mandatory upon us. And it is not it is not definite form. These 4 issues. No, that is not what this sentence is saying. These or the following, or I mean, this is exactly what the sentence is saying, and Allah knows best. And we will go into what these 4 issues are in the following lectures. Inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka.